Welcome today, my space cadet friends. We are here today at Mount Olivet Cemetery to tell the story about the men who went into outer space. John Leonard Swigert Jr., August 30th, 1931 to December 27th, 1982, was born to John Sr. and Virginia. His father was an ophthalmologist. At 14, he became infatuated with aviation. He watched planes take off at nearby Combs Field. He soon became determined to fly. He delivered newspapers to pay for flying lessons and became licensed to fly by 16 years old. He was a second-class scout in Boy Scouts of America after graduating from East High and Regis High School in 1949. He went to University of Colorado in 1953, received a BA in mechanical engineering, playing football for the iconic Buffs, and graduated in 1953. Following his graduation from the University of Colorado in 1953, he joined the Air Force, graduating from the pilot training program and gunnery school at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Heading to be assigned as a fighter pilot in Japan and Korea, where he survived his plane crashing into a radar unit on a Korean airstrip. Logging in 7,200 hours in flight and more than 5,725 hours in jet aircraft, he really loved to fly. He applied for NASA's second and third astronaut selections until being finally accepted into the NASA Astronaut Group 5, April of 1966, where he became a specialist on the Apollo Command Module, one of the few to request for the position. In 1967, he received his master's from the University of Hartford in aerospace engineering and a master of business. He had many hobbies, including photography, as well as playing golf, handball, bowling, skiing, swimming, and basketball. He became a member of Apollo 7's astronaut support crew, the first support for the Apollo mission. Jack was one of 3 astronauts aboard the Apollo 13 moon mission launched April 11th, 1970. Originally on the backup crew for the mission, he was quickly assigned for the mission 3 days before launch, where the original crew had been exposed to the German measles. Jack replaced Charles Duke, who had no immunity to the disease. The mission was the third crewed lunar landing attempt.
Looks good here, flight. Good agreement.
But was aborted after the rupture of an oxygen tank and the spacecraft service module. Jack was the astronaut to first announce, "Houston, we've had a problem here."
Hey, Houston, we've had a problem here.
The statement was to be repeated by commander of the flight, Jim Lovell. Jack Swigert and fellow astronauts Lovell and Fred Hayes traveled around the moon, returning safely to Earth on April 17th after about 5 days and 23 hours, receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom the next day. NASA Director of Flight Crew Operations Deke Slayton, who had selected the astronauts, recommended Jack as command module pilot for the Apollo Soyuz test project, the first with the Soviet Union. He was removed from the project after Apollo 15 postal covers incident, where some of the Apollo astronauts had made agreements with West German stamp dealer Hermann Seeger, originating the idea for the Apollo 15 covers to autograph philatelic items for payment. Swigert denied any involvement, but some evidence was found and he was removed from the project. He took a leave of absence from NASA in 1973 and went to Washington, D.C. to become executive director of the Committee on Science and Astronomics, U.S. House of Representatives. Eventually, he left NASA and the committee to enter politics. 1977, he ran for U.S. Senate. 1978, but was defeated by Congressman Bill Armstrong. 1979, he became vice president of BDM Corp. in Golden. 1981, he left for a position on International Geoda Minerals Limited as vice president for financial and corporate affairs. He left International Gold and Minerals to run for U.S. Congress, but unfortunately developed a malignant tumor in his right nasal passage. Doctors told him experimental test pilots and American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, member of the Quiet Birdmen, Phi Gamma Delta P Tau Sigma and Sigma Tau. He won the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics Octave Chanute Award in 1966, participating in demonstration of the Rogallo wing as a feasible landing system for returning space vehicles and astronauts. Also receiving the City of New York Gold Medal, June 3rd, City of Houston Medal of Valor, American Astronomical Society Flight Achievement Award of 1970. He also won the University of Colorado Boulder Distinguished Engineering Alumnus Award 1970, NASA Distinguished Service Medal 1970, Haley Astronomics Award 1971, Estonian Gold Medal 1972, in 1982, along with 14 Apollo astronauts inducted into the International Space Hall of Fame, and 1988 Colorado Aviation Hall of Fame. In 1997, with 23 other Apollo astronauts inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame. Also a statue made by George and Mark Lundin, placed at the U.S. Capitol building, a duplicate on display at Denver DIA. And here we come to the amazing astronaut Apollo 13, John L. Jack Swigert, August 30th, 1931 to December 27th, 1982. Congressman. And here's his parents, J. Leonard Swigert, November 27th, 1903 to June 15th, 1973. In Virginia, Swigert, August 14th, 1906 to August 4th, 1993. And this is a family plot. Ruth and William and Clara and Harry, Golda, and Chris. And then we come over here to Irene and Harry and James, and this beautiful monument to the Swigert family. We pay tribute to them. And we pay tribute to John L. Jack Swigert. Amazing life. Went to the moon. This man went to the moon. How amazing is that? Francis X. Carey, May 4th, 1933 to October 14th, 1982. Space Worker Hall of Honor. Born in Paterson, New Jersey, and enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, he began technical training at Colorado Lowry Air Force Base. He later transferred to Patrick Air Force Base in Cocoa Beach, Florida, to attend advanced training at the Titan missile site, which provided the foundation of future space programs. He became the chief test conductor on all of the Gemini space flights, as well as the Apollo mission, Viking, and shuttle flights. He received many special achievements awards for his contributions. And we have come to Francis X. Carey, 1933 to 1982. We love him. Thank you for all your contributions in order for us, the world, to get to the moon. How cool is that? Scott Carpenter was born May 1st, 1925. in Boulder, Colorado, to Marion, a research chemist, 1901, 1973, and Florence, his mother, 1900 and 1962. He was known as Bud or Buddy, moved with his parents to New York City, as father was awarded postdoctoral research post at Columbia University in 1925. Summer of 1927, Florence came down with tuberculosis and returned to Boulder. Mountain air was seen as an aid for recovery back then. Her condition deteriorated and she entered into Mesa Vista Sanatorium in 1930. She recovered enough to become Chief Medical Librarian at Boulder Community Hospital in 1945. His father remained in New York and they seldom saw him. He had trouble working during the Great Depression and then secured a position at a natural products company. His parents divorced in 1945 and Marion remarried. Scott lived with his maternal grandparents in the family home. At the corner of Aurora Avenue and 7th Street. He later denied he named the spacecraft Aurora 7 after the street. He went to University Hill Elementary School. In Boulder High School, where he played the clarinet, a cheerleader, and was an editor on the school newspaper. He also was a Boy Scout and was a second-class Boy Scout. February 12, 1943, he enlisted at the U.S. Navy's recruiting office near Lowry Field, near Denver. He then traveled to San Francisco at the 12th Naval District and accepted into the Navy's V-5 Aviation Cadet Training Program. After the hit on Pearl Harbor, he wanted to become a naval aviator. This cadet program began to recruit young people like Carpenter. He attended college in Colorado Springs 3 semesters and then 6 of pre-flight training at St. Mary's College in California. Then pre-flight training at Ottumwa, Iowa for 4 months. The war ended before his training finished. He was released from active duty September 1945. He visited his father and stepmother in New York, then returned to Boulder. He was a second-class scout in Boy Scouts of America after graduating from East High and Regis High School in 1949. He went to University of Colorado in 1953, received a BA in mechanical engineering, playing football for the iconic Buffs, and graduated in 1953. In 1967, he received his master's from University of Hartford in aerospace engineering and a master of business. He had many hobbies, including photography, as well as playing golf, handball, bowling, skiing, swimming, and basketball. To study aeronautical engineering at U of C, Boulder, entering as a junior due to prior study. He joined the Delta Tau Delta International Fraternity. He fell asleep at the wheel of his Ford 1934, the car going over a cliff and overturned. In the end of his senior year, he missed final exams where a bridge washed out, preventing him getting to class. In heat transfer. Later in 1962, he was awarded his BA from university due to his subsequent training as an astronaut to keep studying and never let anything get in his way. Scott met Renee Louise Price, a fellow student. Her parents also divorced, and mother had tuberculosis. They married at St. John's Church in Boulder. Halloween 1941, he was recruited into the Navy's DPP as its 500th candidate, reporting to Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida, after pre-flight training, and he graduated in 1950. Traveling to Naval Air Station, Whiting Field, he learned to fly an S&G trainer, then to advanced training in Corpus Christi. Because of his new family duties, he vied for a less dangerous position of flying multi-engine patrol aircraft. His aviator wings were pinned upon his lapel, April 19, 1951. After 3 months at Fleet Airborne Electronics Training School in San Diego, California, more training at Whidbey Island, Washington, assigned to Patrol Squadron 6 in Hawaii, November 1951, whereas he soon flew on reconnaissance and anti-submarine warfare missions at Naval Air Station in Japan during the Korean War. Second deployment took him to Adak, Alaska, flying along Soviet and Chinese coasts. A third deployment in Guam, flying off Chinese coasts. Designated Patrol Plane Commander. The skipper of VP-6 Commander Guy Howard sent him to the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School, impressed with his performances, where he remained till 1957, finally flying jets like the F-9F Panther, F-11F Tiger, and ABD Sky Warrior. He went on to training schools in Monterey, California, Washington, D.C., and named Air Intelligence Officer at the USS Hornet, dry docked at Bremerton Navy Yard, 1958. October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik 1, a first artificial satellite, creating a wave of anxiety for the U.S. known as the Sputnik crisis. President Dwight D. Eisenhower launched the space race. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, was launched October 1st, 1958, its first project being Project Mercury, aiming to launch man into Earth's orbit, into space, and return safely to Earth. Scott Carpenter found to be a great candidate. He went through the grueling physical and psychological testing, and finally on April 3rd, 1959, he was informed to be one of 7 men selected. He almost wasn't released from his position on the USS Hornet, but the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Arleigh Burke, persuaded him. The identities of the 7 were announced at a press conference at the Dolly Madison House. In Washington, D.C., April 9th, 1959, Scott Carpenter, Gordon Cooper, John Glenn, Gus Grimsom, Wally Schirra, Alan Shepard, and Deke Slayton. On May 18th, 1959, The 7 gathered at Cape Canaveral to watch their first rocket launch of an SM-65D Atlas, similar to what would carry them into orbit. A few minutes after liftoff, the rocket exploded. The astronauts were stunned. Shepard turned to Scott and said, "Well, I'm glad they got that out of the way." Scott flew in a second manned flight as a scientific mission, May 24, 1962, watched by 40 million television viewers, performing 5 on-flight experiments, and the first to eat solid food in space. He nicknamed frozen liquid, loosened from the spaceship, reproduced by tapping on the wall near a window, also observed by Glenn during another mission named Friendship 7 as frost flies. Scott Carpenter's flight was subject to criticism and controversy, some saying he was distracted by the in-flight experiments. And frost flies, having trouble with an override button where he might have panicked, but no evidence to prove this documentation. Later seen to adequately compensate for his in-flight procedures. Upon re-entering Earth atmosphere, he missed the planned splashdown by 250 miles due to manually firing the retro rockets, flight lasting 4 hours and 56 minutes, an orbital velocity of 17,532 miles per hour. Upon re-entry, there was public concern for Scott's welfare, yet he made his way out of the craft, inflating the life raft upon as the raft inflated, staining the water a bright green. 3 hours later, Scott was rescued, picked up by a HSS-2 Sea King helicopter, taking him to the Intrepid, and the Aurora 7 was recovered. In 1963, he met Jacques Cousteau, who was giving a public lecture of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He expressed interest in the underwater research. Cousteau suggested the U.S. Sea Lab. He was able to join a project to Bermuda, participating in training exercises. But he sustained a grounding injury in a motorcycle crashing into a coral wall. 1965, for Sea Lab 2, he spent 28 days living on the ocean floor off the California coast. He suffered another injury from a scorpionfish, toxic spines. He returned to NASA as executive assistant to the director for Sea Lab 3, 1967. He had surgery twice on his arm, suffering from a vascular necrosis, ruled ineligible for further space or sea walks. He spent the rest of his NASA career training astronauts with future spacewalks, resigning in 1967 and retiring from the Navy in 1969 as commander. He founded Sea Sciences for developing programs, utilizing ocean resources and improving environmental health. He became a consultant to sport and diving manufacturers to the film industry, involved in biological energy and production projects, television commercials, wrote a few techno thrillers, and an autobiography. For Spacious Skies, Uncommon Journey of a Mercury Astronaut, co-written with his daughter. Scott Carpenter married 4 times, divorced 3 times, with 8 children. His last wife, Patricia, in 1999 at 74, and residing in Vail, Colorado. In 2013, he suffered a stroke and passed at 88 years old, leaving behind his wife, 4 sons, 2 daughters, a granddaughter, and 5 step-grandchildren. Flags were flown at half-mast. His memorial attended by fellow astronauts. His remains were buried at his ranch near Steamboat Springs. In 2012, he was asked what his legacy would be, and he replied, "I was an astronaut and an aquanaut." Thank you, my friends, for coming along with me so we can tell a story about these wonderful men who contributed to going to outer space. Fun story to tell. Please join me on more stories to come from the beyond. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Helps me to continue my journalism journey. So today, let's pay tribute to these 3 Colorado astronauts, 2 laid to rest here at Mount Olivet Catholic Cemetery, and Scott Carpenter is at his ranch in Steamboat Springs. We pay tribute to these men who helped lead in to the foundation of going into outer space, landing on the moon, going into the final frontier. We pay tribute to their lives and their legacy. They will always be remembered. They shall never be forgotten. We honor all men in the service and women. Thank you for your service. Thank you for going into outer space. Thank you for landing on the moon.